Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is your instructor Muhammad Haris Nadeem, and we are here yet another lesson on English level 1, 2, 3, that's O levels English. And we are starting today with paper 1, section 1, that is of directed writing. Yesterday, as you people know, that we reviewed the paper pattern. We saw paper 1, section 1, directed writing. We discussed some of the text types that are supposed to be there in the exams when you'll be there af- um, after these classes, probably 2 or 3 years, you'll be sitting in your examination. So there will be some of the text types there in your directed writing, like letters, reports, speeches, articles. And we did discuss the section 2 of the paper, which comprises of creative writing text types, and those text types are essays. We have 3 essays that we discussed yesterday: descriptive essay, narrative essay, and the argumentative one. As I told you yesterday, writing paper is of 60 marks in total, and the time allocated for this paper is 1 hour and 30 minutes. And each section has 30 marks. Directed writing is of 30 marks. There will be one question, either a letter or a report, a speech or an article to write. That will be a compulsory question for you. And section 2 is of 30 marks as well. There will be 3 types of essays. Total 5 essays will be there in your section 2 of your paper. There will be 1 descriptive essay, 2 narratives, and 2 argumentatives, out of which you'll have to select one and attempt that essay. And you'll be marked against 30 marks. There will be some assessment criteria for that, which we discussed yesterday. And inshallah, we'll be reviewing those assessment objectives in the classes to come. Today, we have directed writing on board. And let's have another quick glance of the directed writing section of the paper 1, and then we'll be starting off with the formal letter. So a detailed review you can call it, of directed writing that we are going to look into. There are some of the basic elements of directed writing that we would like to discuss today that will give you a fair idea, a pristine clarity into the language concept of directed writing. We'll be looking into the marks division and other things. So Sakib has joined us. Assalamu alaikum, Sakib. All right, let me restate very briefly that I've just said so. Yesterday, we reviewed the paper pattern. We saw section 1 of directed writing, and we did review section 2 regarding creative writing. We did discuss about the directed writing, that in directed writing, section 1 of paper 1, that is of 30 marks, directed writing. And in that directed writing, we are going to see letters, either a letter or a report, a speech or an article. There will be one question there in your directed writing portion, 30 marks in total. And the word limit for that particular question in directed writing portion will be 200 to 300 words. So directed writing is a writing in which the limitations and restrictions are directed, and you'll have to write a piece of text in the given directions, within the given directions. So that directions that limit and restrict your writing upon certain boundaries, within certain boundaries, that makes it directed writing. So out of total time duration for paper 1, that is of 1 hour and 30 minutes. The time allocation for this particular section of paper 1, directed writing, will be of 30 to 45 minutes approximately. And rest of the 30 to 45 minutes will be there for your creative writing section. All right. That's not a problem, Sakib. That's not a problem. I've shared a document. Can you open it up by your side? Can you see the document on the screen? I've shared a document right now. It's a directed writing document. Okay, please, beta, open it up. Can you? Okay, if you can see the screen now, so please bear with me, and I'll be sliding through the screen, and you'll be seeing which slide I'm explaining right now. Okay, beta, Sakib, that's not a problem that you just wrote, that you are at a 0 level or what. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, so the only thing is, if you want me to explain the things in Urdu, just say it clearly. Yes, sir, please explain the things in Urdu. Okay. If you can understand English, then there is no problem. I'll be explaining the stuff in the notes on the screen in a very clear, simple English. Do you want me to explain the things in Urdu? Sir? Okay. All right. All right. That's good for you, by the way. If you because listening English is a good practice for your speaking as well. So the more you listen English, the more you'll speak it. The more fluent English you listen, the more fluent you'll be able to speak it. Okay. So it's better to practice your listening as well. All right. And okay, okay, that's good. That's good. But all you need to do is to focus on the stuff that we are discussing right now. All right. So as you can see, we are on directed writing. So as I've just told you, there are 30 marks there for directed writing. The word limit is 200 to 300 words. Time allocated time for this directed writing is 30 to 45 minutes. Let's move ahead. In directed writing, hold on, let me move on to full screen image. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So in directed writing, the type of function situation writings we have are letters. We'll practice We'll practice letters, both formal and informal. We'll see and learn reports, both informative and investigative. We do not have accounts in O levels English as now because that's an old um pattern. That was old syllabus. Before 2018, we had accounts, but we do not have accounts right now. Okay, so we won't be preparing accounts. We have news, we have report writing, but we do not have news reports. We have articles, both news articles and magazine articles, and we have speeches. Yes, speeches both persuasive and informative, and we do not have leaflets at all. So let's move on. There are some of the instructions, some of the very important points to remember. So far as the question that is set in the paper. Directed writing. Directed writing question format is an important thing for you to understand that, because if you are not able to understand the question well, you won't be able to answer it in a proper manner. Okay. It is very important to understand as well that in the writing paper, directed writing question is the only question that also involves some of the reading marks allocation. You will be marked against your reading skill as well in your writing paper. Reading marks means this is a question in front of you. That's a letter writing question. It's a letter question. So if you read the question and understand some of the distinct parts of it, and you write according to those parts, like these four parts are out there: situation, instructions, content points, and suggestions. There are so many elements in it as well. Like we have four basic elements. mainly, and many others. The four basic elements in directed writing will be going through all these elements later in the slide. Those are purpose, audience, situation, and language format as well. So it's important to understand the question. It's important to understand the question. The first part of the question, that is of 2.5 lines, that states, for example, if we take this question, your friend recently asked you to deliver an item of value to a relative. Unfortunately, this item was lost during the journey. You need to explain this in a letter to your friend. So these three sentences actually states the situation. It also talks about the text type that you need to write. The last line that says you need to explain this in a letter to your friend, it actually states the text type. It tells you the text type that you need to write. That is a letter. The situation is pretty much well defined. It's clear in the first two sentences. So the most important thing, the most important part of a question, of a directed writing question, is to understand the situation, what the situation we are in, what the situation that we need to explain, what the situation we need to comment on. So what is the situation of the question that we need to respond to? Okay. Second important thing, write your letter. You must include the following. Again, the format has been disclosed very clearly. It's quite evident out there. Categorical instructions are there, very clear instructions. Write your letter. The question states you straightforward, in a straightforward manner, the text type that you need to write. That is a letter. Write your letter, you must include the following. It never states that you need either to write a formal or an informal letter. You have to decide it all by yourself after reading the question. There are two, three factors that involves in the decision. If am I going to write, if I'm going to write a formal or an informal letter, it takes the consideration of purpose, audience, and situation. If your purpose is formal, if your situation is formal, if your audience is formal, then your text type, then your letter will be formal. All right. So likewise for the informal one. After this review, this introduction of directed writing, we'll be moving into a detailed discussion on formal and informal writing styles. They'll get to know the things. If question demands you to write a letter to your principal, that will be a formal letter, because formal means polite and respectful language. The use of polite and respectful language is formal language. Informal language is a frank and friendly language. For example, you are going to write a letter to your friend. So it means that your audience is your friend, and friend is a social relation in which you have a certain leverage of being frank and friendly. You don't have to be very respectful. So it means that your language will be informal. So informal language we use for family and friends, and formal language we use for other social relations that demands a particular level of politeness and respect. So third part of a directed writing question will be the content points. My dear students, you'll be given three content points in your paper in the directed writing question. In this case, the three content points here on screen are when and how the item was lost. Second content point, you attempt to find it. Third content point, and offer to replace or pay for them for the item. So you need to consider, explain, maintain, amplify, and develop these three content points into three separate paragraphs. So far as this letter is concerned, we, as soon as we start the letter writing, I'll share with you the pattern, the format of letter, and we will discuss the paragraphing in a letter. That's a very crucial, very important thing to do, and a very easy one. All right. After three content points, we have the fourth and the last part of it, and that is the suggestions. Suggestions are actually the part of the question in which the paper setter, the examiner, actually asks us to follow some of the instructions regarding language and format. For example, let's read the suggestions part. Cover all 3 points above in detail. So that's the first instruction for us to develop our content points into detail. You should make your letter polite and apologetic. So definitely, you made a mistake. You lost a valuable item of a relative. So you have to be apologetic. So your expression will show, your language will definitely signpost the expression of politeness and and apologetic. All right. Next instruction: start your letter. Dear name means you'll be mentioning the name of your friend. For example, dear Ahmed, dear Ali. And remember to provide a suitable ending. A suitable ending that demands your immediate explanation and summarizing the paragraphs of yours, and you will be talking about the end message, the end expression, the ending that is most suitable to the situation and purpose of your letter. The ending, if it talks about suitable ending actually always depends your upon two elements: the purpose and the situation of your letter, or whatsoever text type you are writing. So we'll be moving on from here. All right. Okay. So, my dear, these are these are the elements of directed writing. I hope you can see them on screen clearly. So we are going to consider these questions when we are going to attempt a directed writing question. We did see that there are four different parts of the question. The first part is the instructions we have for the question, and then we see the situation, then the instructions that in which it told us that you need to write a letter. Then we had the content points, and then we had the final instructions or the suggestions for language and format. After reading the question, these are the questions that we need to ask from ourselves, and we need to take out this information from the question, and that information we will use to answer to the question. For example, we read the question, right? And upon reading that question, the first element that we need to dig in, that we need to consider, is the audience. We will ask ourselves, who am I writing for? Audience is the person you are writing for. It can be public, it can be principal. You may write a letter to a teacher, a friend, a company manager, a town council, police, etc. There can be many different types of audience in a formal letter or even an informal letter. Other text types like reports, article, speech. We can have different audience for different text types. So based on that sample question that we just read, the audience, what was the audience of the question that we just read? Who are we writing to? Could you please read that question once again and tell me who we are writing to? Are we writing to our teacher, or are we going to write this letter to a principal of ours, our friend? Very good, excellent. So we are going to write a letter to our friend. So in this case, we have successfully acquired, understood the concept of audience. So we have clearly maintained this concept that in this very question, the audience of ours is a friend. Second thing, purpose. So the purpose means, why am I writing this? There can be multiple purposes of letter writing, report writing, speech, articles. Some of the purposes are stated right here for your ease and convenience. What am I writing? Why am I writing this? That's a purpose. The purpose is, there are many purposes to write something. The purpose of a writing can be to explain, to inform, to instruct, to convince and persuade, to sell something. If there is a marketing thing or something, you are writing a letter or a promotion or an ad, a promotional, you see a pamphlet or leaflet or something. So your purpose can be to sell a product of your business and all that. Give an account of something I witnessed. You may write an account. If you have to, in your example, you don't have to write it because that was a notepad. So to complain about something, actually that is the situation. That's the situation you just wrote. That you lost the item that your friend gave you to deliver. That is the situation. Why are you writing? You are writing this letter to apologize. To apologize. Okay? Exactly. To apologize. To apologize because you lost that precious item that was supposed to be delivered to a relative. Okay? So your purpose here in this letter is to apologize. Very good. Next, format. So we have decided as yet that the audience of a letter, of our letter, is a friend, and we have successfully we have successfully understood, and we have calculated, we have analyzed that the purpose of writing this particular letter is to apologize. Next thing is the format. As I told you, in the first 3 lines, where the first part we discussed, the first part of the question, that was the situation part. In that situation part, it was categorically written, mentioned that you need to write a letter to your friend. And in the instructions part 2, it was also written that write a letter. So something that relates to the format has been finalized. The question asks us to write a letter. So that is a format. Format means how is the speech to be written. The situation can, or the authority can ask us to write a report, a letter, an account, article, statement, review. There could be any of the given text types. So in this case, in this particular sample question, we need to write a letter. So letter is the format. Last but not the least, the most important factor that is going to play a greater role in the composition of a letter, that is language. What is the tone I should use? Which kind of language should I be using? So my dear students, these are the concepts of language. We have different types of language out there to use and compose a particular text type. We always decide the level, the type of language based upon situation, purpose, and audience. Let me put it up again. We decide the language of a particular text type based on the situation, purpose, and audience. That's very crucial. That's very important. The kind of language we have is the language can be formal, can be informal, can be persuasive, suggestive, informative, argumentative, etc. There are different types. Yes, we are apologizing. That is the purpose. One thing, okay, to apologize. Fine. So, who's the audience? I told you upon purpose, audience, and situation. Purpose to apologize. To apologize can be formal, can be informal, depending upon the audience. Audience is the most crucial factor, the most crucial, the most important element is audience. So the audience is our friend, and friend is an informal audience. So it means that we write an informal letter to a friend. Why? Because our audience is informal. So the situation is informal as well. You have lost a valuable item of a relative. Okay. So since the audience is informal, we need to write an informal letter, and our language will be informal. Informal language, I told you, is a language that we use to communicate with the family and friends. Let's move on with that. Directed writing. Whatever we write letters, speeches, reports, articles, both in a magazine or newspaper articles. We tend to use 5 paragraphs in that particular text type. We start with the introduction. In the introduction, if we write a letter, report, speech, or article, or whatsoever it is, when we write the introduction of, for example, take letter for example, we just read the sample question of a letter. If we start writing the introduction of this informal letter, in the introduction means in the very first paragraph of this informal letter, we are actually going to comment on the purpose and situation. And if we add language and format, that will be an added thing. So purpose and situation must be there in the first introductory paragraph of ours. In the informal letter or the formal letter, it is very important to write your introduction in the very first paragraph, and you must include the purpose and the situation in your introduction. So the line states introduction, reiterate the situation. Reiterate the situation means we are going to comment on the situation. We are going to take the situation from the question and write it down in the first paragraph of ours. Informal letter starts with the greeting. Hello, hi, how are you? Hope you are doing well, right? And then we state the purpose. I was thinking about writing you to apologize and all that and all. Okay? This is the language. This is the informal style of communicating with a friend or a family. If it would be a formal situation, formal audience, formal purpose, we would be starting it like the purpose of writing this letter is to comment, to complain, to apply, to suggest, to recommend, all that. Body. Let's move on to the body. The body has 3 paragraphs. Paragraph number 2, we are done with paragraph 1, that is of introduction, in which we'll talk about the purpose and situation. Body has 3 paragraphs. Paragraph number 2, 3, and 4. And you remember in the question, we read about 3 content points of ours. So those 3 content points are actually those 3 content points will be developed into 3 separate paragraphs. Each of the content point will be developed into detail in one whole paragraph. You will discuss one content point in detail in one paragraph. So three content points makes up three distinct paragraphs. You will use logic, reason to develop those content points into detail. So three paragraphs will be there for the body of the for the body after the introduction. Elaborate the three content points in separate paragraphs. That is the body. Then comes the conclusion. The conclusion is actually the fifth paragraph. First paragraph introduction, three body paragraphs, that makes it four, and the fifth one is conclusion. In the conclusion is yet another very crucial, very critical part of any directed writing type. May it be letter, report, article, or a speech. Ending is very crucial, very critical. And what is actually the best way to the best way what is the best way to conceive and compose the ending of a particular text type? My dear, the best way is to talk about the situation and the purpose that you wrote in the first paragraph. You need to write your conclusion, the ending, according to your situation. For example, in this particular informal letter, you needed to apologize to your friend. In the ending, you will console the loss of that particular item. You may apologize, you may restate, represent, reproduce your apology in different words. You may use a statement that reconciles the loss of that particular item with your friend. Reconcile means that you need, because you lost something that was very important to a relative. Now you are apologizing to your friend. If you are apologizing, so it means that you are going to make things better between you and your friend. So you need to write down a sentence in the ending that gives him a little hope. For example, you lost a very valuable book, a very valuable book, maybe an expensive book. So you may ask in the ending, uh, you may offer your friend that I will get you a new book. All right. So this kind of reconciliation is very welcoming from your part, that you are making bridges, you are reconciling, you are making things, you are making terms and matters better between you and your friend. You care for your friend, and you think, you believe that your friend should not suffer out of this loss. So in the end, you offer your friend that I will buy you a new one. Or you have another item of that sort with you right now at the moment, and he can take your product, your thing, your book for a while and use it, and something like that. Next thing that is important for us to consider is to leave a line after each paragraph. When we are done with the paragraph, we need to leave a line. That actually marks the starting of a new paragraph. Write a paragraph, leave a line, then start a new one. When you are done with the other one, then leave a line. The paragraphs are all left aligned, so you may choose to write the first sentence with the two fingers distance with an indentation. This is what we call it, the two fingers distance. So this is what we have for today for directed writing. We'll be continuing, inshallah, the same lesson in the next meeting we have scheduled tomorrow, probably at the right time, the same time. So, which skills are you talking about? So, it's the time of your questions, please. If you have any questions, you said audio books improve your skills. Improve your skills of listening. Are you talking about listening skill? Your writing skills? No, beta. No, no. There is a universal rule of language learning. Improve your writing. You are a writer. Your reading makes your writing better. Okay. A reader can be a good writer. Okay. So try to read as much as possible. If you want to be a good speaker, if you want to improve your speaking skills, so then listen as much as you can. Listen better so that you can speak better. Read better so that you can write better. Better writing skills, for writing skills, you need to read the particular text types. For example, if you want to improve your narrative writing, your story writing, you need to read stories as many as possible. Oh, I said you need to read stories to write better stories. Okay, you need to read articles to write better articles. Can you hear me? Sakib, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Sakib? I don't know. Why don't you turn your mic on? You can turn your mic on. It's pretty much everything fine by my side. Okay. All right. Okay, fine. All right. So this is the end of the class right now. We'll be starting from here tomorrow, inshallah. All right. So if you have any questions, please. Okay. No problem. No problem. No issues. No issues. So I have. I hope you have noted down the things and you have the document as well. You may download it, and we'll discuss the things tomorrow, inshallah, from here onwards. Okay. So see you tomorrow, inshallah, around 6 o'clock. Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Akif. Nice to have you today in this class. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.